Todd, I welcome you to another Super Chat.
Good morning, Gary. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. We are coming off of a long holiday weekend. I don't know about you, but we worked.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it never goes away. Well, you are now officially into the 2018-19 academic year. Hopefully things are going well so far, but it seems that the new let's just call them traffic patterns are causing some confusion and some congestion. And also there are some issues with bus routes and logistics. What can you report on these two topics?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting start, to say the least. I would start off by apologizing to the parents and wanting them to know that we are continuously looking at revamping and putting better systems in place for how things should go. Three of the biggest areas have been the three new elementary schools, and then Colerain High School changed their parking direction. So all four, I can report, have started to work as we thought they would. Just a reminder to folks that we did a lot to go into this school year. We redistricted 7 elementaries down to 5. We went from 450, 500, 600 school buildings to 900. We currently stand at 955, 923, and 907. So just that, getting new bus routes, which we had to because different areas from the redistricting are now going to schools. So that will cause buses to start their pickups early. It'll cause them to be late. We are so big, we run 3 tiers of transportation. And if one tier gets behind, then it bumps the other 2 who come afterward. So it has been something that we continually look at, and we will continually revisit. We are going to make some changes next year, and we're going to continue to look at them this year. We're going to try to delete the issue of parents calling and having mailboxes full at the transportation office. So we're going to put more bodies over there. We're going to train more folks in VersaTran, which is the program that routes our buses. So then they can answer phone calls and make the changes immediately instead of taking notes about the changes and taking it to the other 2 supervisors. So we think that will help a lot. We also tried to bus more kids this year. We didn't want them crossing any roads that were high traffic. So we've got some pretty full buses everywhere, and we've got to continue to look at that. We get feedback from our bus drivers. They're talking about needed route changes. We did drive the routes before school started, just getting folks to understand there, we don't have everybody going back to school. And that's what led to some of the lines at our new school. So I directed traffic at Struble Elementary. The first day was a little chaotic and kids didn't get into the building on time. But after that, it flowed very smoothly. Traffic patterns are in and out. Everything's working well. And same thing at PRE and same thing at Taylor. So even though they started with a little bit of a mess and a delay, I can also report to you that a lot of people brought their kids to school the first day. They wanted to take pictures. They wanted to get out with them. They wanted to make sure they were safe and secure. After that, they started riding the buses like we assumed they would. And now buses are starting to get to their time slots a little better, but we still have some confusion there. So I just want the public to know we are working hard on this, and we will continue to try to do a better job.
Very good. Well, let me change directions, Todd, altogether. I'm just curious as to where do you stand on student enrollment numbers at this point?
Yeah, we're very pleased with our enrollment. When we built the schools, we wanted them to be able to hold anywhere from 875 to 950, and we're right there with all 3 schools. We're about 100 plus students up on enrollment. All-day kindergarten enrollments continue to change daily since the start of the school year. We've had more kindergarten enrollments than we expected, and we've added 3 new teachers. So we are working diligently to get the class sizes. And just so folks know, when we look at class sizes, our guidelines are for kindergarten 20 to 24, first grade 23 to 25, second grade 23 to 25, third grade 23 to 25, and then fourth and fifth grade 27 to 29. And we have done all the research on class size. And unless you can get to under 15, there is not a lot of difference between 15 and 30. So we are trying to stay consistent. We are trying to stay fair, but we do recognize our kindergarten numbers were too high, so we've added 3 teachers in that area. The new schools are bringing new enrollment like we thought they would, and we're dealing with it on a daily basis.
It's my understanding that you have a state of the district discussion coming up. I was wondering if you could share the details of when this will take place and where. What's up with this?
Yeah, so what I've done is I have a monthly PTA president meeting, and that's a time for me to share things that are going on in the district, get some feedback. So this year, I'm wanting to reach out to more people. So I'm going to attend the PTA meetings 2 times a year for each school. So that'll be 24 meetings, going around and making sure that parents know what's going on in the district, and for me to also gather some feedback and information. At the end, there'll be a chance for them to ask questions. I'm sure transportation will come up. I'm sure enrollment numbers and lunch and how things are going there. But just doing a better job of getting out so people feel like they are more connected and are communicated with on a better basis. We're currently going through a communication audit, and some of the things that came out of it is myself needs to be more approachable and to be accessible in more locations. I realize you go out to games, and I watch games every week, every night almost, but you don't get that same connection. Parents need to feel enabled. They need to feel like their voice is heard. They need to feel like they can ask questions. So that's part of the reason I wanted to get into that. The other thing we're starting is a superintendent advisory committee, so we can have parents be a part of the decision-making process in the district. I mean, it's been a fast 2 years and a rough 2 years with these new buildings going up. When you're spending $96 million on buildings, you want to make sure that people are spending your money correctly and fairly, and you're getting the best for our students, because it is the taxpayers' dollars. And, along with that comes a lot of meetings. Along with that came the ability that we saved so much money building the 3 new elementary schools that we were able to air condition every other building in the district. So we want parents to have input on curriculum. We want parents to have input on dress code or anything else that affects them, our fees, what supplies kids need for school. So this is just a way for folks to get connected to help us make some decisions. And then lastly is our VIP group, which is our folks who have helped run levies in the past. They have voiced that, sometimes the only time we hear from the district is when they want to run a levy. And, my first 2 years as superintendent, we had to pass 2 levies, and we passed them at the highest rate that they've ever been here. But you know what? We have been disconnected from those folks, and their input and their feedback and what they feel and think about the district is very, very important to us. So we're just trying to provide more and more opportunities where parents can play key roles in decision-making process for our district, giving feedback and feeling free to ask any questions they want to.
Wow, with all these places to be in these meetings going on and everything, wow, don't you wish you could kind of clone yourself a few times and show up in multiple places? Well, I hear you are planning to form an administrative SAT advisory committee. For the benefit of our listeners, describe the particulars of how you envision this working for stakeholders.
Yeah, I think the most important piece of this is, we're not looking at going through a levy this year, but the school formula for funding is so complicated. It's an advisory committee that will be parents, community members, and staff. So we can make sure, one, they have a full understanding of how we financially are supported by the state, where our funding comes from, how much enrollment really affects our funding as we go up and down. Is the district so-called capped, which means the state looks at your enrollment and says that's as much money as you get no matter what enrollment goes to. So I think you start with that. But we also have 21st century learning buildings. These 3 new schools are phenomenal. We have Chromebooks, 1-to-1, district-wide, K through 12. Well, just because you have Chromebooks don't mean that teachers have the PD to insert them in the lesson planning and design and how to use them. Figuring out ways to get these Chromebooks to be able to go home with the kids so they can use them in their community. Maybe possibly as a district going out to apartment complexes and putting hotspots in there. So this is a committee that we can bounce ideas off of. They can give us their feedback. They can give us ideas of how we need to communicate. They can give us ideas of what taxpayers feel like the money should go for, but it just gives them a voice. So it'll be a smaller committees than the other ones I've talked about, but it'll be a committee that's very important because it will get down to the nitty-gritty of what are we getting financially from the state, what can we afford, and how do we stay balanced within our budget.
Those are all important, critical issues, without question. I wanted to ask you about one other thing. As you look at your official school calendar, you have some date changes being implemented, specifically involving board meetings. Can you tell listeners about these changes?
Yeah. So we set our calendar for Board of Education meetings every year at our first organizational meeting in January. And we set 24 meetings up. But due to some changes we had to make in construction to make sure we met the guidelines for getting these buildings done prior to school opening this year, OPSI, which is our bus driver union, getting that contract passed and signed and in place before school starts, we had to schedule some extra meetings. So we have changed the month of September. The only September board meeting we will have will be next Monday, September 10th at 6:30. Then the Board of Education will have a work session on Wednesday, September 12th at 6 o'clock. And then we are moving like we have done for the past 2 years. Our first October meeting will be at the Butler Tech location so they can see other campuses that our kids can attend. And it is the Butler Tech LaSwordsville campus on October 8th. So we had to make changes just to meet everybody's needs. And I can tell folks already that we have to move our November meeting because we have the Capitol Conference up in Columbus. So there are some changes, but we want to make sure everybody knows about our board meetings. The community needs to get involved, have a voice in what we do. So that's why we want to make them aware of the changes.
Yeah, and listeners, of course, are encouraged to follow these meetings, show up, get involved, engage yourself, because it all helps your child as they are a student, and it helps administration to get feedback. And Todd, fine report today. We had a good variety of topics, I think, for today's program. You can never go wrong sharing as much information as possible with your district-wide school family. Keep up the good work, and I'd like to thank you for joining me once again here on SuperChat.
Thanks, Gary. We always appreciate the opportunity to help spread the word, and your program does a great job for us. So thank you so much.